Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another player interview. This time I'm here with Tyler Rice, who came off of an excellent weekend in Rockford over the weekend. So Tyler, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us how you did.
I'm from Indiana. Been playing the game for a while, for a couple tops. Over the weekend I went 11-2 with U6 Broly. I got 5th place on Saturday and 1st place on Sunday.
Nice. And then for those of you who don't know, it was like 2 different tournaments at Rockford. So yeah, first day you got 5th and second day you got 1st, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so 2 tournaments, very, very positive record. So what made you want to play Broly U6 in the first place?
Actually, I didn't want to play Broly U6, but I got my invite at Gen Con, and a lot of my friends needed theirs. So we kind of had like a gauntlet of the best decks built, and I just kind of let them pick whatever they wanted to play. U6, but surprisingly, I liked the deck a lot more than I thought I would.
Nice. So have you tested like U6 Kaba a lot? And like if you have, how does it compare to this?
So when Set 7 first came out, I did play a lot of U6 Kaba, just because it seems so powerful. Being able to have an actual side deck is huge, I think.
I agree. Yep.
Oh, Mira Champa is, it wins games. So
Right.
Even though Bloodlust is a one-of, it's still like extremely clutch sometimes.
What were some of the key cards you were bloodlusting over the weekend?
Like Purunga was a huge one because there was so much Shinron and Purunga there.
Right.
So the 3-drop Purunga was a big one. I actually bloodlusted Victory Strike once, which was nice.
Oh, was that ruling in effect for the tournament?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And really good against Skillless and red decks too. I played against one baby. It helped a lot in that matchup.
Sweet. So let's go over through the main deck real quick. So typical, we got the Kales and the Cauliflas, but I am curious about Senzu Bean and how you feel about it, because I've been playing a lot of U6 Kaba lately, and like it feels like once you get Champa Vados on board, you don't really need Senzu Bean. But what are your thoughts on the card in the deck?
I thought the same thing when I played Kaba. I got to the point where I cut it to 3 and 2 at times.
Yep.
But in Broly, having the Kai, the Champa Kai, and leaving up energy for Bloodlust and counterplays is just huge. So Senzu Bean's really effective in this deck, but I do agree, like in Kaba, it's not needed quite as much.
Excellent. Yeah, I thought I was like one of the only people who thought that, and people usually like think I'm crazy when I say that, but it's nice to know someone agrees with me. So the one planet, was this card like necessary in the deck? Because you only played one, so was it kind of just like the 50th card or what?
Kinda. So like basically the list, like I said, we had like a gauntlet build. I didn't plan on playing this, so it was like pretty much Marcel's list from Orlando. And once I found out I was gonna play the deck, I played a couple games with it and just switched a few things around. And I just had like one more spot, and I was like, well, it could be like a 5th copy of a lot of cards, or like a 4th copy of a lot of my veggie pieces.
Gotcha. Okay, so moving along, we got the Beerus, just need it for the free energy. We got the Kai, the 3 Cauliflas that tap energy. So the one thing I think about the Broly U6 deck versus like Kaba is I feel like the Broly version is just like more straight to the point aggro, where Kaba you can play like aggro but also kind of control. So how do you feel like about that? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? And then like how aggressive do you feel like this deck is compared to like U6 Kaba?
No, I totally agree. Broly is definitely a lot more aggressive because like you want to attack with your leader anyway to generate advantage, and games where I didn't even get to Champa and Vados and I could still put out so much pressure. Just turn 1 you charge multicolor. Turn 2 you play the 1-drop Caulifla, get the big Caulifla, swing leader, +2 off your leader, combo the Caulifla, and then just so much pressure. And I feel like the other Kaba, or the Kaba deck, sorry, like the little guys first and kind of set up into Champa Vados. So
Right.
Broly is just right to the point. You hit the nail on the head on that one.
Right. And another question too, actually, that kind of brings it up. So in Kaba, you have more of like a lined up curve, you know, like turn 1 multicolor, turn 2 Kale, turn 3 sometimes Chomp of Vados if you don't get it turn 2. So like, do you feel like, is there like a strict curve in this deck, or is it more like free form where you're kind of just like playing 1-drops and evolving over them?
I think it kind of depends on the matchup a little bit. But mostly, yeah, turn 1's multicolor, so all your counterplays are active, obviously. And after that, you want to get Caulifla going. Champavados is a nice icing on the cake, but like I said, it's more early turns. You're going to be trying to be aggressive against Janemba, Shinron, Purunga, Toa, stuff like that. Tapping and evolving, but against I will say against Janemba, Champavados is nice to arrival on their turn, so then they have to respond immediately, and then on your turn they'll either have their energy tapped or Champavados will stick.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that sounds pretty much what I was thinking too. So moving along, we've got the 8 counterplays, the Gohan and the Champa. So Champa is super obviously like really good, like against Gogeta 7, against Kaioken, but how did Gohan perform? Because it seems like maybe the most lackluster counterplay. Like it's either this one or like Kaioken Goku for probably like the most lackluster. They're both still good, but like how did this card perform at the weekend? Because I know a lot of people play like 3 of this card, 2 of this card. So how'd you like it?
It was pretty good. Champa's definitely better. But like in a lot of Purunga matchups and Shinron matchups, it's just nice to have a lot of things you can play on their Shinrons and their Purungas, because that's going to be like their first real play a lot of times against you. So I just really wanted to have as many ways to answer stuff like that as I could, and it was a good call because Purunga and Shinron were everywhere.
Excellent. And then that actually brings up another question. Yeah, I'm kind of, my brain is just firing right now. So against like a Shenron deck, right? For example, I think like typically you want to be as aggressive as possible, tap out every turn so that you can apply the most pressure leading up to their kill turn. But then like you do also want to play like counterplays for the most part, because like you said, you want to be able to counterplay Purunga and counterplay Champa. So how do you kind of like, how do you navigate that space of like what's the best time to not be super aggressive and leave up the 2 energy for the counterplay?
Well, in a perfect world, you'll have Sensu Bean. You see a lot of cards, so you can be super aggressive without tap. Like if it's your turn 3, let's say, you can be really aggressive off 2 energy. You can do a lot of things. So 1 energy up as you're being aggressive and tapping Sensu Bean to untap the other one for a counterplay works. Broly leader. Sometimes if it's like a critical turn, like the Purunga turn or whatever, and you know if you can make it through that turn, you can probably apply enough pressure per game. Using your leader effect to restand the second energy is really helpful. You don't necessarily have to choose between the counterplay and the aggro.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it works out pretty nice.
Okay, cool. That actually makes a lot of sense, and that's a really helpful answer. So I think the people are gonna really appreciate that one. So moving along, Brilliant Parent Kefla. How does this card feel in this version of the deck? Because I know in Kaba it's pretty nuts because you get the 5k boost on both the Kale and the Caulifla typically. So how is this card in this deck in particular?
I liked it a lot. I noticed like I don't play it as much as I would in Kaba, but when you do, it's just kind of icing on the cake when it does go work. But at worst, it's like a turn 1 charge, so your Beerus is coming untapped.
Gotcha. So it does put in a pretty decent amount of work. Yeah, the one thing I noticed with it too is like if I force my opponent to like 1 life, it's just like it's a free body that gets 2 swings in, and it can be pretty solid. So we'll go to the side deck, but before we do that, real quick. So I'm curious what you think. Like, what are the good matchups for this deck, and what are the bad matchups for this deck?
So I feel like the deck doesn't have like any matchups that feel really bad outside of red, which sometimes you can kind of play around. You can have a red. My 2 losses were 1 to a Shinron deck and 1 to a Purunga deck, and both of them were just so close. Game 3 and like really good cards, or I felt like I didn't have there was one game where I had to hard drop a Kale. So outside of that, everything felt pretty good, honestly. I mean, like Toa and Kid Ku almost felt free, I think.
Felt like good matchups for sure.
Yeah.
And then the one other question that kind of brings up in my head, if you're going against something like Vegeta Baby, where they can very specifically like -20 the Champavados, how do you navigate that matchup? Do you like avoid dropping Champavados, or do you kind of just play at the right time?
Um, I tried to like them establish the ape like super early, like turn 2, if I could, like um the little Vegeta or whatever to disrupt them. Bloodlust is a thing.
Yep.
Um, if you can go off like turn 2, turn 3, and put them in a really bad spot, like if you can't let them establish the ape and you play 2-drop Khalifa to tap one of their energy, chances are they can only use like 1 after image or 1 revenge death ball.
Mm-hmm.
Point, like you can kind of build a wide board, and them stopping one thing isn't too terrible for you.
Gotcha. Just kind of put them in like a crippling scenario. So we'll go into the side deck real quick. So we've got Dark Power, Black Mass Sand. That's going to be for like your Familial Bonds decks. It's going to be for your mirror matches too, which is really good against the 2-drop Kale. The Ox King Dad at Heart. Now, I've heard this is like a really good sideboard for red. How did you kind of feel about it? Because it's a 1-drop. You pretty much just like, you play it and you know it's going to die, but is it worth it?
So I only played 1 red matchup, like I said. The game I did play it, turn 2, I played Troublemaker Khalifa, tapped down 1 of his energy. He only had 1 up, and he had 1 Revenge Death Ball in hand, so he had to use it on the Ox King. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it works, but it was a limited amount of time I got to play it.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, it does seem good in theory. Definitely seems good in theory. Then we have the 2 Nimbus, the 2 Haru. So pretty big sideboard for the mirror match. Like, did you? I know you said you played against a lot of Shenron and Purunga, but did you face a mirror match? And were there any other matchups that these cards were clutch against?
Baharu was really good against Slug. I actually played against 2 Slugs the first day. But yeah, outside of that, I only played 1 mirror, so they didn't come in much.
Gotcha. And then what did you want the Frost Deadly Poison for?
Really just anything big that doesn't have deflect. I don't love the card, but in certain situations. So I don't know. It might be something I take out at some point, or I don't know. Maybe I just need to test it more.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's pretty tough to keep 3 energy up in a deck that's like not Janemba. So I do definitely get that. And then we have the Tien Shinhan and the Fu. That's probably, you know, mostly for the Janemba matchup. Any other key matchups where these cards came in?
No, they were solely for Janemba. I mean, most of the time in a lot of matchups, I didn't really need to side a lot, but against Janemba, I felt like the tricolor is just too much to deal with.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we've pretty much gone through the entire deck. A lot of great insight from Tyler. Are you potentially thinking about playing this deck for Nats, or like kind of just scrapping it from here on out?
I really like the deck a lot now, but I'm really scared of some of the red stuff in the draft box, so right. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to play against it. The Vegeta's insane, I feel like. But,
yeah, that Vegeta board wipe is nuts.
I have to see in testing, but I'm not gonna rule it out.
Gotcha. All right, man. Awesome. Thank you so much for all the information. Any final things you want to say about the event, or any like final shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, shout out to Top Cut Games. They ran a really smooth event. Participation pricing was good. I know it wasn't a huge event, but I think 80 people the first day and about 50 the second. Faced a lot of good opponents. Shout out to everybody, all the judges. It was just a really smooth event. It was fun. Had a great time.
Awesome, man. Tyler, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, man.